Hey guys, welcome to a special video that the members of the Foundry have been working on for a little while. We have been brainstorming some new content ideas for you all, and we decided that we would want to do maybe a little movie review for you guys because we haven't really done something like that in the past, and we thought it would be a really cool idea. So, Marvel Infinity War has come out, and we're all dying to talk about it. So please, if you have not seen the movie, there are going to be some spoilers in here. So avert your gaze, just in case, because obviously there's going to be some stuff that's going to, probably not be the best for you if you haven't seen the movie. So I'm here with two good friends of mine, 97 Johnny Boy.
Yo yo.
And Sly, the man, the myth, the legend.
What's up?
Usually when you go with the man, the myth, the legend, don't you say that and then you go Sly?
No.
No?
I like it my
bad.
way.
My bad. You're okay. All right, sorry.
Carry on.
Please.
10 minutes.
It's all good. It's
Continue.
all good. Anyways, so we wanted to do this for you guys because we really enjoyed the film. We really wanted to break it down for you guys. And I'm not the only one that should be talking about all of this. Hold on.
All right. Okay.
I'm not the only one that's going to be giving like hardcore opinions on this. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
So I'm not going to be the one who's going to be like overpowering anyone because like a lot of people, when there's like a person who starts the talk, a lot of people assume like this is the person that's going to be giving the most opinion. You know what I'm saying? That's not how this is gonna work. We're gonna throw the mic around here a little bit. So I'm gonna start off with that first toss over to Johnny. There you go, my dude, and the floor is yours.
All right. So the story's been in the works for like 10 years. Infinity War, total of 19 films. I'm fairly sure all the MCU movies have been produced by Kevin Feige, the man, the myth, the legend. So the Russo brothers directed Infinity War. Yeah. Also, many men here, a lot of myths, a lot of legends. Robert Downey Jr., Chris Hemsworth, Mark Ruffalo, Chris Evans. Those are like the biggest head honchos, starring there. But, so the weakest part of the MCU, in my opinion, were the villains themselves, looking back at what like heroes faced. Not a lot of them weren't memorable to me. But until recent films like Homecoming, Ragnarok, Black Panther, until now, the stakes are like at the highest it's ever been with Thanos and whatnot. But how do we all feel about the movie without going into too many spoilers right now?
Oof. You follow someone who inadvertently comes across as a protagonist, I'd say.
Expand on that.
I'd say the story of Thanos is meant to be touching, and you're kind of rooting for him to succeed in his quest. Even though you know the outcome, how bad it may seem for, let's put it lightly, half the universe, you want to see him get all of them. And seeing to what lengths he will go to retrieve each stone, it's just, it's a thrilling movie.
I agree. I feel it's like the human condition to want to see how big and bad the the enemy or the conflict can get.
Yeah.
And it's very strange to actually bring that up because a lot of people can say like, hey, well, if this character did this or if this character did this, then he may not have gotten like all the stones or whatever. But, the whole thing is that the whole point of this entire experience is seeing what that power can do and what it does do.
Yep.
And that's one of the coolest parts about the film. What thoughts on that?
Thoughts on that is that you're a psychopath because both of you want Thanos to win and wipe out half of humanity.
You have to agree, though. Did you not start to feel for him at certain parts during the film?
As a character, yes, but I didn't agree with his motives and whatnot. I didn't
I-
want him to
I
succeed
agree.
in his motives, but I wanted
He is
to
no
experience
doubt
more
an
of the character.
extremist, but the fact that he is so steadfast in going every length to accomplish collecting each stone. I mean, I don't want to get into too many details right now, but I mean, he trades a soul. The guy goes back moderately in time for one of them. The guy does just about everything. And then when he uses the reality stone to show off what Titan once was, that kind of hit the nail on the head for me, as in like, wow, while his method may be a little over dramatic, I can see what he meant by this provides better opportunity for half the population.
Johnny.
So, yeah, Sly, you still suck at not doing a lot of spoilers.
Oh, sorry. Hey, we did say.
What I was going to say is, I do want to expand on this, but I want to take a couple of steps back, and I want to ask you specifically, Johnny. I know you're going to stick to your guns on this, and that's what I want. I want you to stick to your guns. I want to ask you why, specifically what I said, not what Sly said, what I specifically said, why does that make me a monster? And I want to know why.
About the Thanos thing?
Yes. And remember, you gotta choose your words wisely here, but continue.
So even if it was a joke, I have to define you as a monster. Why you're, well, for one, the pineapple thing. That's always
this is
an
not
underlying.
has nothing to do with pineapple.
All right,
I want to have a quick, very, very succinct debate right here about
Avengers,
this, about why. No, not specifically Avengers, specifically about Thanos and when it comes to the human emotion, why is it that if you as a person want to see what I'm going to use terrible word here, apex of a situation creates, why does it make you a bad person? I want to know, and I have a reason for this, but go for it.
Not that you want to know, but what Sly said about him rooting, like as if like, come on, Thanos, you got that.
That's exactly what I said. Is I didn't say Sly. I said what I said.
I don't think you're a bad person for wanting to know. I mean, I want to know about certain things, but like, I want to know what all the nukes in the world can do, but I certainly don't want that to happen. I don't think.
Well, we don't mean this in a realistic sense.
I know that's what I'm implying. I didn't mean realistically that you guys are monsters either.
No, I know. I'm not saying like you got to stick to your guns when it comes to what you said about it, but like I want to like dive deeper into the thought process of the exact human condition, because everyone has that curiosity, and I won't even go like let's limit this to like movies and entertainment. We don't have to go to like a real place, because that's different, because when it comes to a real place there are like real life consequences,
many factors.
Right. And there are many factors. So like when it comes to like a movie sense, wanting to see the build up and wanting to see, what happens when, all of these heroes face such an unstoppable force. Like, I feel like that is something that we don't see very often, and that's something that, like, I feel like it needs to be portrayed more. But that's just me.
So you want more situations where you just want to see, like, that evil? You just want to see it?
I want more situations. Yeah, I want more situations where there are no ways out. Because in so many movies, the hero will just, find something, miraculously. And I'm not saying all, but there are quite a few where, like, it just gets to the worst situation, and then, like, the most convenient thing happens. And, like, I want to see more where there is backlash. Like, they do have a way to, overpower or defeat, the protagonist. But I want to see damage done. And that's one of the reasons why I actually love these kinds of movies, is because it all started with the first Avengers. And if you haven't seen the first Avengers, I don't know why you're here, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to spoil that for you right now. When Robert Downey Jr. has so much PTSD because of what he did in the first movie. I loved that because it's real.
You're referencing Iron Man 3, correct?
No, I'm talking about Avengers.
I'm saying in Iron Man 3, after Avengers, he goes into shell shock. Yes. Multiple times he starts getting like scratches and itchy and over manufacturing his weapons or his suits rather.
I mean, even in the second Avengers, he shows it. But the fact is right after the first Avengers, you can definitely see that damage has been done, and you can see every single person involved, how it's affected them. And that's really cool. There's so many so many movies that when a sequel comes out, it's like the first movie like never existed. Or they'll maybe throw like a tiny reference in, just like a quick 3-pointer, just so it's like, hey, we had another movie, but like it doesn't really impact the movie to the same level. And that's why I really like this. I'm not trying to hog the floor here, just want to throw my 2 cents in.
No, it totally makes sense, that cause and effect feeling for each film to be intertwined, which they are meant to be. Sometimes it does feel as though the repercussions of the ending of a previous film is not addressed in the next film, whether it is a direct sequel or not.
Yeah, that's the thing I like think about. It's like, because with the MCU, like there's so many movies that you need to watch in order to be like, between Age of Ultron and this Avengers, because this technically is like, just according to the title, like it's a sequel to the Avengers movie, and there's been so many movies in between those films, and that you need to watch for the backstory and to understand everything fully. And these movies that are connected but aren't direct sequels, it's kind of hard for them like to follow up with each other, because it's not an exact like second telling or a continuation of that same story, but it's recognized and still unpacks that timeline and that universe still.
Yeah, a great example of that is when Dr. Banner meets Stark again, and he's like, why can't you just call Steve Rogers?
Right.
That was a good moment.
He wasn't there for Civil War. He doesn't understand exactly that things broke apart. And Tony Stark was very brief in saying, yeah, we split up like a band, the Beatles, and in reality, it was a lot more than that.
But obviously, he's having the repercussions in himself because of everything that went down. So yes, I agree. It's really I feel like the experience of these movies, like I feel like it goes beyond just like the scope of a few hours of entertainment, because it's one of the few series of movies that like when I leave the theater, I always end up thinking for a long time. I'm always just like, man, normally when you leave, you're like, that was a good movie, or that was a bad movie, or however you feel. But for me personally, every time I walk out of like Avengers movies or Marvel movies, like I'm always like stuck processing for far too long. But I'm always processing stuff about what is going on and how it affects other people that may not even be in the movie, because I know that at some point those other people were going to be part of a continuation of like said story. Mm-hmm. So how is that going to affect them? And that's pretty much exactly, without giving another example, because an example was already given, the example about Banner and how he was not there, and the fact that he just honestly couldn't like fathom as to why the Avengers were no longer a thing,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like I think that's really, really cool, because most films would just, have it to where like, oh, what happened? It'd be like, oh, we're not on speaking terms, or some stuff went down, and it's it's the impact that the previous movies make on the addition to, the sequel that brings so much heart to, to the whole thing.
Well, I think a lot of movies wouldn't even like recognize that the characters, like the audience knows, but I don't think movies would like incorporate that the actual characters like didn't know that thing. Like in some movies, I think they would just automatically assume like, well, the audience knows, so these characters are gonna know, or something like that. Or
no, yeah, I follow you. I definitely follow you on that, because like when it comes down to it, like when these kind of movies are made, especially this one, like production value and screen time is very limited. So if there's anything that they feel that is not necessary to like put in the movie and add a scene into this film, they're gonna take it out because they need to put so much in because of how this is all accumulated to this point, this head of quarrel, that they need to keep as much I guess I don't want to say like specific screen time, but like okay, this, instead of trying to explain it here, I think the better way for me to say it would be when it comes to pacing of the movie. Now, when you're talking about the movie's pacing, I think honestly this movie's pacing was done really well, because there's a lot of points where they could have continued scenes and you would have had a growth, just a steep incline of like emotion through the entire scene. But they don't do that. They get you to a certain point, then they jump you to another scene that is it's a complete phase shift.
Yeah.
You're high,
They did really
and
well
you're
with
ready.
that.
You're ready to fight. Yeah, you're hyped and you're ready to fight, and you're loving it. And then it just takes you to like a completely different scene that just literally pushes you off the cliff, or it yanks you down. And then by the time that scene is completely over, they shoot you back to that high point, and you're just like, you just don't know what to do at first, because you're just like, I was so high like 10 minutes ago that if this would have been, just the continuation and they wouldn't have had that other scene, it would have had a completely different feeling to it. And I feel like that is done really well.
The film definitely kept me on the edge of my seat. I did not anticipate any of this. Before the film, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I'm sure we can all agree after watching the few trailers, we all were under the assumption that one of the significant main role characters, such as Rogers or Stark, would meet their demise.
Right.
Yes.
Having said that, with what actually transpired, just right off the bat, 5 minutes in, and then halfway through the film, seeing the progression of some characters and the loss of others just started to mess with me. And then you were talking about falling. I'm not going to give a direct reference here, but right after that, we jumped to a comedic scene, and it's like I was just in total grief right now, and now I'm laughing.
Yeah, it spruced right back up, and a lot of intense moments. Right back to relaxation and calm.
That's the perfect way to say it.
Yeah, they
How many
paced it
times
extremely
did you
well.
guys watch the movie? Just a quick question. How many times?
I've only seen it once. I really want to see it again.
Johnny, once. I've seen it twice so far. And boy, even though I already watched it once, it hurt just as much the second time. I was not ready.
Well, let's dive into the writing and the script of the film itself. So, like, one really good example that I liked about it was between some new character, well, not new to us, but these characters that were new to each other. As an example, like Thor and Rocket, like we mentioned some others, but like Thor and Rocket, like the dialogue between like characters that were new to each other were my favorite. It was, some was funny, some was serious, some of it was very touching as well, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was spectacular. Some of the banter between some of the older characters, say like Black Widow and Rogers, it's not very memorable to me. I just kind of like brushed off my shoulder. It's like, all right, normal stuff between there. But yeah, I like with at the very beginning, like we saw Stark with what's the one girl, Pepper, right? Yes, and a little bit of that going on. Like I really didn't care for that. Like feel like I've seen that a billion times, and anything that came out of their mouths, I really didn't care for, because maybe I'm exhausted from those characters in the MCU. I don't know. Or exhausted of those relationships in the MCU, who knows? But between like the new stuff with like say like Strange or Spider-Man or Strange and Stark, like that stuff, I really was craving more of, to see more of the character interaction, and the dialogue fitted a lot of the characters. I felt like some writing for some specific characters were written only in a specific way to get the plot going, or if they wanted to turn a plot a certain way. I felt like some characters didn't really act like themselves, or act like they've been portrayed in other films, and some characters were written a little bit weaker than they should have been, in my opinion. But you guys have any like specific moments of the writing in your script that you thought was really good or just kind of like disappointed with?
Sly, you want to take this one?
Certain moments where the writing or the script was really good. I'm gonna start with the beginning so that we can maybe get the ball rolling a little bit. There was a lot of callback references in the film. I don't know if you guys noticed it. Word for word quotes that have been used in previous MCU films, and it was funny just to see how the person that it was used against in some scenarios, they ended up using it, such as Loki. When presenting a certain tribute, we'll say, to our big, testicle-chinned friend, he looks him dead in the eye and he says, undyingly pledge my faith.
I pledge my undying loyalty.
Yeah, sorry. I pledge my undying loyalty. I'm jumping ahead, actually. Before that one.
Well, we don't need to recap like the whole film and stuff like that. Like, I just want to go with specifics, like specific recaps or to where it's like
I have a moment in mind, but I want Sly to.
He throws in that we have a Hulk, which was the same words that Tony Stark had thrown against him in the first Avengers.
I do like that.
When he said, I have an army. We have a Hulk.
Yep.
And then just to see, I think the big thing for me was seeing Hulk's, I guess you could say, bringing him down to earth, literally and figuratively. He was very, we'll say, humbled after that interaction with Thanos. He went from being on Sakaar, a freaking god almost. The people respected him. They loved him. Whereas on Earth, he was, feared. And then now, he became pretty much a bitch. He just got thrown around.
Well, there's a lot of underlying stuff going on with Hulk, with the relationship of Hulk and Bruce Banner, because Hulk was his own individual, like in movies like Thor Ragnarok, like showcase, like he had his own dialogue, he was his own characters, he had his own emotions, he had his own thoughts, like, which to Bruce Banner, that's not the case. He specifically brings out like the Hulk, like, oh, I need help, I need trouble, I need you to fight. Like, he's only brought out to be as a tool when, in Hulk's mind, that he is an individual, he is another being, and it could be that he is scared to fight Thanos, or that he doesn't want to be there just to be used as a tool.
Yeah.
Anymore.
There's a lot of relationship between the two of them that's going to develop, undoubtedly.
And I love how they haven't really talked about that too much, how they just kind of, like, there's a, like, sub-little story going on with it. Like, at one point, the Hulk literally screams no. Like, a part of him comes out and says no to him.
Apex, you were going to say something?
Oh, I was just going to give one scene in particular, but you guys are still on this, and this is actually a really good point.
Yeah, I like it because it's been developed over like a couple movies, like since like Thor Ragnarok, like, because what was it that Bruce Banner was afraid that Hulk was like going to permanently take over and whatnot?
Yes.
And
because he did for how many years?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
2 years,
like, a couple
2 full years. Yep.
So that's a genuine fear because he feels like, and I think I'm gonna go along with what you were saying, Johnny. I feel like the relationship between them is Bruce will bring him out when he feels that he needs his strength or he has no other option.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, he himself is afraid currently afraid because he has never been, in Hulk mode. We'll just cut it down and make it easy.
Yeah.
In Hulk mode for so long, and finding out that that it's possible to be the Hulk for that long because he had never been a Hulk for that long. It obviously is scary because 2 years of your life. Imagine just going to bed and waking up one morning and it's been 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can understand. Yeah, I can understand why that you would be afraid of that. But on the other hand, Hulk himself has more of a personality than we ever even imagined, because obviously in Avengers 1 you don't see that. You just see the whole I'm always angry. I'm always angry, and then Hulk comes out. But now that we know that Hulk does have a personality, there's definitely more of a there's more of an internal fight that Banner
conflict between the two of them, and they don't even know about it yet.
Exactly, they don't really even know. And I feel like when they finally have a chance to come to terms with things and they realize that honestly, I feel like they do need each other because their personalities go together a lot better than they individually can think. Yeah, exactly.
Although Banner's afraid of that like aggressive tendencies of Hulk, and Hulk, doesn't like that intellectual appearance that Banner presents. Together, they actually have a lot more to offer.
Exactly. And that's the whole point, is when they have that moment that they can actually bring it together and find that middle ground. I feel like they'll be even more unstoppable than we've seen Hulk in the past.
I'd like to say that Hulk has possibly developed similar to a child since the Sakaar incident. He went from, just Hulk smash and just lots of like rhythmic grunts to speaking sentences and short phrases in Ragnarok.
Mm-hmm.
And I do find that possibly that may have played a part in him getting beaten by Thanos, because he doesn't have that natural rage now.
It doesn't seem like he's as primal.
Exactly. He's lost that animal instinct right now, and I have a feeling that maybe in the next film something is either going to offset him, such as the loss of Black Widow possibly, and he's just going to be enraged, or he's going to finally work through this with Banner and they're going to reach some sort of consensus where together they can switch between one another and work in unison.
Yeah, which is going to be interesting to see because they have issues that need to be worked out, and it's two separate beings, but they work as two separate personalities, which can only
exactly
exist at once.
It's kind of funny because I mean it's not a perfect comparison,
yes.
But like I kind of feel like the Hulk is kind of like a symbiote, similar.
I find it more like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and they actually have a scene like that where half of his face goes Hulk mode and half of him is still just Banner, and I was like, wow,
yeah, I know what you're talking
right
about.
There,
yeah,
just split in half, completely opposite people sharing the same host, technically, even though there's a transformation.
Yeah, I feel you. I'm talking about specifically like in the Marvel universe, though. That's why I compared it to like a symbiote.
I'd say you're right. Yeah.
But I definitely like the way that they're going with Hulk. I guess that's the hard answer. Is I enjoy the direction that they're going with him, and I'm excited to see where this goes in the future. Now, to go back to your last question, Johnny, and I'll try and make this quick because I know we don't have a crazy long amount of time, and I don't want to stay on one topic too long. When it came to scenes that really stood out to me, there were a lot of scenes that were very good. I really enjoyed them. But I still think, personally, one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when Strange and Stark are talking to each other, and they have like this moment where they're kind of like throwing insults back and forth at each other, and as things progress throughout the movie, those insults start to become more
insecurities.
Yeah, exactly. They start to become more like insecurities, and then they cover for each other because they like realize what those things mean. And I know that's vague, but again, I don't want to give like a direct spoiler, but when you've seen the movie, you'll understand what I mean. But I really, really liked, especially the final scene where Strange does something you wouldn't expect.
We do have two egotistical characters in a sense. We have this doctor who's overconfident in his abilities, and then we have Tony Stark who has this undying faith in his ability to create and prevent incidents, such as when he created Ultron as a world peacekeeping initiative. That didn't end up working out, obviously.
There's one time that Iron Man has been humbled like his entire life is when he was kidnapped and he actually was stuck in the cave and he had to create Iron Man. And ever since then, like, he's never ever laid down. He's always he's never known loss or anything like that. So he's only known victory. So that's where all that ego and the big-headedness comes from.
It's true.
Yes, I agree.
But the character interaction between the two of them were very well written because they were two very egotistical people. But when it comes down to it, they do care about stuff. They just don't like to show that side.
And that's why that was so memorable to me, especially at the end, because when it came down to it, it's kind of like what I was saying at the beginning, where it's like when things come to a climax, or when things are the worst they possibly can be, that's when you see like true character in
Mhm.
people, and that's when that moment happens, and you're just like, wow, you know what? Like you find like it's kind of funny because like everyone knows Stark and everyone knows, you know, Doctor Strange as these egotistical, characters. But then finding a moment where you like have almost a respect for them because like they can, they have the capacity to move beyond that and do, what is necessary even if it doesn't seem to be like what is good or right at the time. And that's why it's like impacts you so much.
Hmm. But there's a big part that I enjoyed, big like storyline that I enjoyed from the film was Thanos and his family, and you did say something, Sly, about his journey, Thanos' journey.
Yes.
Yeah. So you want to talk about his like family, I guess, and
When
a
we
little bit
refer
about
to
that journey?
family, are we referring to the group the Black Order, or are we referring to his daughter? Order, the generals, sorry, the Black Order, the daughters, or are we talking about his people, his planet?
Let's talk about the generals.
The generals. All
Yeah,
right.
let's talk about the generals. If you wanna
What a-
go over the Black Order like really quickly, that's fine. And about like how
Okay.
loyal they are to him and whatnot.
Well, I have this strange feeling that the herald, we could say, for the Black Order is Ebony Maw. He has this intellectual vibe to him and overconfidence in his abilities. At one point, even stating, I have never failed my leader.
Hmm.
And he's very nonchalant in combat as well as just talking. He has this very laid back demeanor, only for one scene where he does get a little agitated with Doctor Strange. But aside from that, he does seem to be the wise one of the group and as well being a magician. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say he's probably the one that has served Thanos longer than the others.
Yeah, he might have done this whole thing before of like destroying an entire planet's
Yes. I know
population.
he was there for the throwback scene to Gamora's world. I know he was speaking at that scene.
Yes.
So that was obviously, she's probably 30s, so we could maybe assume 20 years back, maybe at least.
Perhaps.
Then, of course, there is Cull Obsidian, who they decided to rename. Originally was Black Dwarf, but for the sake of friendliness, Cull Obsidian is a lot more universally accepted. So he's just a straight up brute. I'm going to say he's probably a lot more intellectual than than Hulk is. Pardon me for that very big mistake. He's not, of course, Banner in an intellectual sense, but he does have some brains to him, even though he doesn't really speak much. Proxima Midnight, they didn't really cover too much whether she is the wife of Corvus Glaive.
They did seem close, though.
They did seem close. Either some sort of sibling demeanor, which would be weird, unless it's kind of like the Daughters of Thanos thing again, or
Which I don't think that they are literally his children, but I do think that they are his undying loyal servants that he calls his children almost like a cult-like.
Yeah.
Same thing with like Nebula
Ebony
and
Maw
Gamora.
does say, even in death, you have all become children of Thanos when they invade Thor's ship. He says that to all of the Asgardians, Thor, Heimdall, Loki, the works. He lets them all know that in death, you have become a child of Thanos, and this should be an honorable end. And then, of course, Corvus Glaive and his glaive, he's a phenomenal fighter, and that weapon is just overpowered as hell.
Very true.
I gotta admit, even though, this is a little bit of a backtrack, but Proxima Midnight's, I'm gonna call it a spear. Having the ability to recall it, just, wow, that thing was an interesting weapon, and seeing certain scenes where other characters took a hold of it was a little bit odd, I have to say.
Okay. Apex, what did you think about the four Chillins?
Good name.
I liked their characters.
Yes.
Out of all of them, funny enough, the one that I felt that didn't get enough time was I don't know the names as well as you guys do, but it's the female of the group. I feel like she didn't have enough time. Like she had she had a shadow, so to speak, that was cast through the film, and like that was strong. But I feel, number one, I feel like there was more that could have been done with her character, and then also the way that you know, the final scene with her is resolved was a bit lackluster in my opinion.
Yes.
I did like the characters, but I wish I would have gotten a little bit more screen time with them. Maybe with them, I'm not sure what would have made it better, but maybe like a little bit more interaction with Thanos, or a little bit more interaction with each other, and like their plans
They don't
beside
do a lot
it.
of speaking with him. I've noticed they really more so just sit and listen to him, as though their presence, it's an honor to be in his presence and to have taken guide from him. And I have to admit, though, this is kind of a little bit off topic. Their CG was, personally, I liked it a lot. I think they did a really good job on the CG for the characters. They didn't seem very green screening to me, and they really blended in well with the environment.
Yeah, I thought the CG for the movie overall looked pretty good.
Agreed.
So Thanos got some other kids, doesn't he? He's got a few.
Yeah, he's got a couple daughters that seem to despise him, one more so than the other, but she has good reason, mainly because she loses a limb every time she gets her ass handed to her. I don't know how to put this. What would we agree is the MacGuffin of the film? Would we say it's all the stones or a distinct stone?
I don't know enough about it. Like, well, I know it from the comics, but like specifically what this films have told me, and the only thing that really looks that I don't know, that is like showed its worth is particularly the Mind Stone and the Time Stone.
Yes. They have seemed to have the most functional and purpose behind their usage, yes.
Right.
I feel well, first of all, I agree. I feel like the Time Stone is the one that stands out for me personally.
Yes.
But I also have to say that another of the stones, I feel like it wasn't used enough. There was a lot of stones that were used throughout the film, but I feel like one was used like way less than it should have been, and that was the Reality Stone.
Yes.
And I really liked what they did with the scene that the Reality Stone was in, but I feel like the Reality Stone could have been used so much more in the film, and you could have seen like its true prowess, because when you see what happens in just the very first scene that the Reality Stone is actually used to its like potential, it just kind of like it's not one of those things where it's like the movie, got messed up because of this, but it's just something that I feel as like, as I said previously, I finish a movie and then I think about it a lot, and I'm just sitting there trying to, absorb everything. That was one thing that definitely came to my attention, where this could have been very interesting if it was used, especially in a specific final scene, if that was used along with another stone, because that's another thing that I realized that was something that was not done in the movie, was I never really saw multiple stones used at once.
I wanted to shift the conversation there right now. Thank you so much, Apex. I have this utmost confidence that when Eitri created that gauntlet, the stones were meant to be used in individual succession, we'll call it. None of the stones seem to work together, and it's even in his combat, you see him use the Space Stone to suppress certain attacks, or the Reality Stone to muffle things, and the Power Stone, of course, to just obliterate things, literally. You never see him use two stones at the same time. One of them glows at a time, and I don't know if the gauntlet has the ability to, obviously, having seen the gauntlet can allow for things, but was it meant to allow for a culmination of the stones.
I have a thought on that, but I want Johnny to throw his 2 cents in on this.
No, it's good.
Please.
Go ahead, Apex. Go ahead.
Okay, I feel like that is something that is 100%. And again, this is just my opinion, but I feel like that is 100% Thanos. I feel like the Gauntlet can harness all of the power because, honestly, we know the Gauntlet has all the power because of the final scene of the movie.
Of course.
That can only be done when all the stones are brought together, meaning that all the stones have to be used together in order to do it. So that means that the Gauntlet does have the power to harness multiple stones at once.
Yes.
But it has to be the user of the Gauntlet has to be creative enough to figure out how to do it.
But there was a detrimental effect at using all of the stones if you paid enough.
True.
It was also a physical effect other than just aesthetic effect. And that was what really made me wonder that. Obviously, from previous films, we know the stones have a limitless ability. So the stones will still function. I am more so interested in knowing, is the Gauntlet capable of making amends with these things? Can it do it again?
Well, let me ask you a question. Sorry, Johnny, I'm not trying to cut you off.
Ahead.
So my question to you is this. In the movie, the time stone is used to go back in time and change physical matter into something that it previously was.
Yes.
Now my question is this. If the time stone can be used to do that, can't the time stone go back and fix the Gauntlet itself if the Gauntlet itself is the one that has repercussions because you're using multiple stones at once?
I want to say it can, but that would probably come at the cost of undoing his action with the Gauntlet.
So why would you say that? Because everything else points to the opposite. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying I want to know your opinion on that. Because in the movie itself, just from reversing time around, let's think of it as a bubble. You can pretty much reverse anything within this bubble, or you can expand it and reverse pretty much everything.
I'm going to say that the scene where he used it to reverse, if you noticed, when he stopped reversing it, it was at a perfect resting position. It was not at the previous position that it was at before it disappeared, in other words.
Okay.
And I feel like that's what I mean. So everything that had happened to it before was affected. Not only and even we'll call it an explosion when the trees rustled with that light, even that rewound. And if we throw back to Doctor Strange's scene where he unwinds time and messes with the apple, obviously a callback to possibly the Adam and Eve story, as he moves that apple, it just decays all the way to just bare rot and then healthy apple. But it came with a cost as he went either way. And it was shown more in Infinity War. But that's why I feel that if he does fix that Gauntlet, he may undo what happened. I'm not entirely certain he will, but I feel that's the case. I have a speculation, though. He's not going to fix the Gauntlet in the next film.
That's interesting. That's an interesting theory you have there. And I like the way you broke that down, because I like having that conversation about like these things that have limitless power and these things that can do so much, like when they're used together, if possible. Like what ramifications does that have, especially because if you're using multiple other stones and then you're using the time stone to correct the damage that's been done by other stones, that makes you wonder if the time stone has enough power to like change the damage that multiple other stones have, and if so, does that make the time stone the ultimate
most powerful stone? Yes, because if we look at Thor and his callback in Ultron, I see the Mind Stone at the center of it all. The Mind Stone is obviously, in the Gauntlet, the largest stone, which I find interesting because Vision's character has been somewhat... He looked very vulnerable in this movie.
That's what I said earlier about how
Yeah.
how he was a certain character was written just to be
Yes.
weak for the film, even though prior to what we've seen, the character seemed like he's got a little bit more
invincible.
going on.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if that was the stone that had made him so superior in the previous films, but nonetheless, nothing changed with the stone now. Obviously, someone else had more than him, but the point being was he was on multiple occasions overpowered by beings who did not have stones.
Let me respond to that. I believe it's a cop-out, but I believe, me personally, the reason why that is because, first of all, fear took him, first of all. He was afraid for almost the entire movie. And on top of that, having the whole, and I'm going to jump to another series just because it's very easy to say, having the whole, like, Harry Potter syndrome where, like, he can feel the other stones, it just took all of his power away.
It was consuming him because he felt it coming.
It wasn't believable enough.
Yeah,
to
it
me.
was. Yeah,
I agree.
exactly. It wasn't believable enough because this
If it was
fear
the case or not,
took
they didn't
so
do a
much.
very good job of explaining it or displaying it. So
Yes, I feel like if it was explained better, like if they had, let's put it in the form of like chemistry, where each stone has a reaction to another. Let's say if they had something like that put into the movie, and then pretty much like, and this is going to sound strange, so let me finish this, like a dowsing rod reacts to water, as these stones react to each other, the remaining stones that are not in company of the previous stones, they react in a specific way, and because they react in that way, a person who pretty much uses the stone as a life source, it could drain them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's not conveyed at all.
yeah, that's
Johnny,
the thing.
thoughts
on
this general aspect.
well, we were on Thanos and the family, and
You're right.
yeah, we were, but that's fine. We can move on to.
We could shift back to there. I just want to know, like, what's your personal opinion on the stones in this term? You know, what your stance is.
On what they showed, I really liked what they showed about the stones, but a lot of them they just kind of left up in the air and left a lot up for assumption, and they could have done a lot better job kind of showing off what the stones could have done, what the power of the Infinity Gauntlet was supposed to be, and what it could have done, because you saw that, like, you talked about, like, how it was destroyed, and, like, will he go back to undo what he did so he can have the Gauntlet back once again? Like, we didn't know that was going to happen. We don't know if he was able to use, like, more than one stone at a time or something like that, or we just didn't know enough, and they didn't talk about, or they didn't display or show enough off the stones. But it was cool what we did see. It was like they had literally the strongest thing in the entire universe, like infinite of anything, like pretty much because of all the Infinity Stones.
Hence the name. Yep.
Yes. And he chooses to kill people instead of using these Infinity Stones for, like, say, Infinity Resources or rewinding time to, like, where Titan, like, his home planet was back. There's just a lot of flaws and plot holes that they could have went around, because
that
when you
is a
have
good
something when it's, like, so powerful to where it can, like, fix your problem, and to where, like, your maniac solution isn't really substantial anymore. Like, it kind of breaks some walls down there.
Yep.
But
then now on to the family.
Yeah, I just wanted to know more, like, about the Infinity Stones. But that's fine. We can move on to the characters. Did anyone really stand out for you guys? Because I'm gonna go ahead and say that Thor definitely stood out for me. Just like because I've been riding Thor since Ragnarok, because that movie was amazing. I'd say that's my favorite MCU movie that I've ever seen. And I really liked Thor in this film. The dude is going through weapons like a madman, though, so he needs to do a little bit better about that.
True.
But his character interaction with just absolutely anyone and everyone was spectacular. Also, I also liked Iron Man a bit. I liked his interactions with some other people as well. Iron Man kind of has gotten on my nerves before. I didn't really care for Stark, but I really liked Thor and Iron Man, definitely. Thor is like kind of taking. I felt like Thor was more in the spotlight than Captain America to me.
He was,
which was weird to see, but I'm happy for it. I'm definitely happy for it because he is like the big dog, which I kind of like forgot about the powers that he got from Odin. You know, like with the lightning and whatnot, and the biggest fight scene where he was just raining lightning down. Spectacular. The God of Thunder was at home, and I loved it. But I'd say who was just at the bottom for me? Vision, for sure, and Scarlet Witch. They were just plot devices. At times, like, only things... Just like these characters didn't act like... They weren't rational. They did not act like the certain characters they were, just to move the plot along, and just because they wanted a certain something to happen. But, Sly, who was your favorite and least favorite?
Ooh. Favorite? It's going to have to be Thor, hands down, just because of the development. Even though they did, I have to admit, they kept me waiting how they introduced him early in the film, and then we don't hear back from him for quite a bit. I'm going to be honest. And I literally was sitting in the film, and I turned to the person I was watching with, and I was like, where the hell is Thor? And then, boom. The scene came in, and I was like, thank you. And just seeing all of that lore come back, I was just like, wow. But second closest to him, I am so happy to see the development of Doctor Strange's abilities. In the first film, he was not that powerful. Having just been introduced to the mystic arts, now he truly is this sorcerer supreme, having worn the time stone. I was disappointed, however, how he only interacted with his stone possibly 1 to 2 times in this film. I was under the assumption that having learned more about his wizardry, he would have called upon it more in combat and just for its use. Because as a few of us have agreed so far, that stone may very well be the most useful in terms of universal reliance compared to the other stones. In terms of weakest characters, once again, Vision and Wanda both seem to have been dumbed down, even though in previous films they were some of the most powerful characters, and their relationship just felt like this broken thing, as though it was like closing in as the film was progressing. On top of that, I would say maybe the Hulk relationship, his development, that was really it. But that's really that. Apex, you?
Well, I'm gonna have a very interesting point of view because it's very different from you guys.
Drum roll.
I'm not going to say my favorite character, but I honestly, personally feel like the way that they brought Scarlet Witch into this, and how, first of all, I do agree with you. She was pretty much a plot device. Like,
yes.
What she did in the movie was a plot device. But I honestly feel like the way that she was used in the movie was really creative. And I'll explain that because obviously when it comes right down to it, I do agree with you as well that like the relationship was pretty much put into play because of the last scene, and like they're like, well, this will be more painful if these people are in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why that I believe that's why that was done. But I did like the fact that she has grown as a character when it comes to like her abilities and stuff, because I feel like in previous Marvel movies, you're just seeing tiny bits of what she can do, and in this you're seeing quite a bit more utility, and I mean utility specifically of what she does. But going specifically on like favorite character, worst character, I'm definitely gonna say that with a heavy heart, and I know the internet is going crazy with this, but like with a heavy heart, I have to say that like Star-Lord is pretty low for me.
Oh yeah, his
Yeah.
shenanigans.
I want to say
Pretty
that
low
that
for me.
yeah, I want to say that his decrease in I want to justify
Popularity.
him and try and save this man, but I feel that his actions were allowed because of the expected outcome.
I know exactly where you're coming from on that, and I agree, and that's I kind of feel like that's kind of a cop out in itself because
Exactly. Yeah, I
when
agree.
when you think about that, that just pretty much means that like his emotions have no value because it's part of the plan. I'm gonna
He is a very reckless character in previous films, I must admit, but I have a hard time struggling with him doing it at this point, having been, he was offered a similar choice earlier in the movie to do on his own accord, and he failed to do so, mainly because of guts at first, and then because of someone just outsmarting him. But in the end, when it happens, not by his own hand, his emotions just took control of him, and he screws the pooch.
Mm-hmm.
and that's just I feel like when it comes down to everything at stake, I think a rational person would realize that this is something that needs to be dealt with later rather than an outburst immediately.
Yes.
And I know that it's hard, but I still think it was I kind of feel like he was a plot device as well. And I know that's weird to say because, if that didn't happen,
You know
what
what?
could
In
have
fact,
been?
I agree with you as well. I agree. I think that he somewhat would have been rational and someone would have realized like the bigger picture instead of letting his rage get the best of him. I also think that was a lazy plot device. But sorry
He
to
was
cut
a
you off.
discreet.
Continue.
He was
No,
an
I agree.
underlying plot device in a sense. He was like kind of snuck in there. Like his emotions are really his like the MacGuffin in terms of the corresponding character. Really,
I agree. It's
But who's
it was
your fave?
it was tough.
Who's top dog for you?
Um,
Who did you want to see more of?
who did I want to see more of?
Drax.
That honestly, I know it's kind of funny, but I wanted to see more of Spider-Man, and that's not my favorite character, but I wanted to see more of him because I felt like he was in the movie for like maybe 10 minutes, and I felt like there could have been more uses, especially in a later scene. There could have been more uses for him, but that's weird because like I definitely wouldn't say he's my favorite character of the movie, but I feel like there's a lot of characters that weren't used enough. And I guess that could be just because like the scale of this movie, obviously it's so large.
Yeah, it's
Some
so big.
some characters are going to be like outmatched, outclassed, overshadowed by others.
Yep.
But I'm going to have to say that my favorite was probably Thor as well. And it's just because the raw power of his character was shown more in this movie than probably the others.
Yes.
And the fact that they honestly just genuinely need him. Like, imagine if he was not a part of the movie, what would have happened? And I think that's something that speaks for itself.
With the mention of power, I have a question for both of you guys. In a top 5, we're going to use the words strongest Avengers from 1 to 5, who would you name them?
Currently, or
Currently,
okay.
Well, don't take into account.
I was about to say, we're gonna have a problem. There might be literally 5.
Don't take into account the end result of the film.
Okay, I know what you're saying.
Yes, top 5 most powerful.
Well, I definitely have to say Thor is top currently.
I'd say so.
All right, I got my 5.
Sorry, what was that?
Thor's number 1.
I got my 5.
Okay,
You got
what
your
go
5?
for it, Johnny.
All right, I got Thor. I got Doctor Strange. I got Iron Man. I got Chris Evans. Captain America. That is his whole name. And Black Panther.
Okay.
Interesting.
All right.
Okay.
I like
Actually,
that list.
change out Black Panther for Spider-Man. Change my mind. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. What about you, Slay?
Oh, okay. Here we go.
You knew
Thor.
this asking this question.
Thor, hands down, is the number one. I've got Doctor Strange at second.
Good.
Tony Stark / Iron Man is undoubtedly third. His armor has come a long way, and he was able to create an outcome that none of the other characters seem to allow. And I hope you two are. I hope you guys know exactly what none of the others did, with the exception of Thor at a larger scale. But I'd say after that is Spider-Man. Spider-Man has got to be fourth. That new armor has really given him a lot more possibilities to his powers because he has a blend of intuition as well as raw strength like Captain America in a sense. And in terms of fifth, I'm struggling with it. But I want to say that the fifth strongest character is Groot.
Okay. That's an interesting one because, like,
It's wrong, but interesting nonetheless.
no, that's not what I mean. I'm just saying that's an interesting one because that's what the implication that everyone in the movie is an Avenger. And I know that sounds strange, but like to me, I feel like a lot of people that were in the movie are like they're brought into it, but I just don't feel like they're a part of the Avengers yet.
I definitely don't feel like the Guardians are Avengers.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that. I just mean it in the sense of terms of characters who were in the film.
Okay, all right, I can see that.
Otherwise, yes, I'd say he's probably number one on the Guardians side.
You guys remember Falcon?
I do.
Yeah, he's a thing. Just want to let everyone know that Falcon
does
is.
Exist.
Yep, Falcon is cool.
I have to say, Ant-Man was the number one most powerful character in this film.
All right, buddy.
More. You know what? He remained invisible better than Drax.
You know what?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
No one saw him. It's just that still.
All right. Anyone have any like little scenes or nitbits you guys want to talk about?
Top five? Okay.
Oh yeah.
Apex,
Okay. Okay. What's your top five? Thor. All right. Sweet. Got it. I thought you said yours.
Cool.
I'm sorry. What you got?
No, that's fine. My number one is Doctor Strange, above Thor.
I like
just because of the implication of the stone itself.
Mm-hmm.
Thor's raw strength is nothing to.
Anyways,
funny. Thor's raw power is nothing to laugh at. So he obviously gets the second spot. And I feel like Iron Man is up there, but I don't know if he deserves the number 3 spot. And the reason why is because there are just so many characters that have more. I don't want to say utility because that's not the right word because he is the definition of utility, but more impact on things around him.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely say he's number 4.
It's hard because you have to like incorporate like what they can do and what the movies have shown that
exactly
they can do.
Exactly. Number 3 for me. That's a tough one because I'm struggling. Number 3 for me might have to be what's it called? Okay, I'm gonna go with number 3 would be Scarlet Witch, and the reason why is what she can do, not what she's shown to do.
Okay, that makes sense.
That
I gotta admit, well, she did do something that I had thought to be impossible before this movie.
Yep.
So,
knowing
having seen what Thor did to the Reality Stone in the Dark World, I was surprised to see that she had the power.
Come on, Sly. No one's seen that movie.
That's true. Well, we all know the death. We all know. Remember, build a statue for me. with the big bendy horns.
Again, no one knows what you're talking about. You're gonna have to go into a little bit more detail. No one has seen that movie.
Anyway, Loki gets jugged by Curse, who's this big elf that has a helmet, and he gets buff as hell.
Okay.
And he pretty much suicides him, and yeah, it's pretty badass. But
All right.
Loki fakes his death, and it's really dramatic, and they actually make a mockery of it in Thor Ragnarok, and it's probably a better movie in alone than Thor 2. But
Probably.
hey, it should have gotten a Golden Globe. But,
All right, Dark World 2013. Thank you. All right.
pretty much Thor tries to destroy the Reality Stone, and he uses the power of Mjolnir's lightning, and he makes it explode, only to crystallize and rebuild itself again.
Ooh, that's
Yes.
totally remember that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So after seeing that, I was under the impression these stones are indestructible.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
Why is-
why. That's
why is
exactly
Scarlet
why.
Witch?
That's exactly why she's number 3 for me, because of what her power can do.
Yes.
And she also was in the Dark World, so that's
Yeah.
why she's. Okay. All right, I'm done crapping on the Dark
so,
World. So number 4.
So that's number 4 is Iron Man.
Cool. I like Tony.
And number 5, for me, it's tough because again, it comes down to what their powers can do. And it's kind of funny because I want I want to give like other characters like a shot, but when it comes down to it, like a lot of characters are just like they're just strong people. You know what I'm saying? Like and that's one thing that kind of sucks is because it's like when it comes down to like intelligence and what they can do with that strength, that's cool and that's all on them. But when it comes down to like there are limits to what regular people can do, and I know that sounds condescending, but when it comes right down to it, it's like you don't have any other powers other than like you're just stronger
Right.
than what a regular person could be.
It's like what? Okay, so War
Captain
Machine
America.
versus like Captain America. Like Captain America is objectively better. Some heroes are objectively better than other heroes. That's for sure.
Yeah. But I would definitely say, I'm gonna have to just toss it to Spider-Man. I'm gonna have to just because there's like, especially because of where he currently is at, like he has so much room to grow with like what his powers can do, and just as a character, I feel like he has to be on the list because he's already at a tier, like he's already in like a high tier place.
And just feeling like because like all right, this guy is so young and there's so much more potential
Yeah,
and so much more you could
exactly.
do. That's why he's on my list as well. And there's
Yeah.
a lot more growth. So
Yes.
we still need the glorious number 5 spot.
No, that is number 5.
Oh, number 4
wait,
was
really?
Number 4 was Iron Man,
Yeah. So who's 5 again?
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. Okay,
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
Sorry.
Right.
So let's go over it one more time. So number 1 is
Number 1, Doctor Strange. Number 2 is Thor. Number 3 is Scarlet
Scarlet
Witch.
Witch. Iron
Number
Iron Man.
4 is Iron
Spider-Man.
Man, and
Okay,
number 5 is
gotcha.
Spider-Man.
I
Gotcha.
thought we skipped
Gotcha.
one there for a moment.
I'd say it's a very arguably understandable top 5.
Yes, you're right. Wanda is a very strong hero, but a shit character that I cannot get behind.
Here's the funny
In the
thing: if
movie.
we look at for all 3 of our, how many are still standing?
That's
Hell
true.
out.
we should be concerned about Avengers 4.
Well,
Why?
you already brought up a very big point. I'm not going to say what it was, but someone standing still long enough can make a big difference. Continue.
I see
What's
what
next
you're
on the
saying
list,
about
Tony?
that.
a
I was gonna
very
say
good
that
hint.
we can wrap up because we talked about a lot of other. We talked about got a lot into the Infinity Stones, and I'm really excited for the next Avengers movie.
Oh, honestly,
I am too.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Ant-Man and the Wasp as well.
that's coming out in what, like 3 weeks?
I guess I've heard nothing about the movie. I've seen no trailers
Early
about it.
June, something like
I
that. No
am
trailer?
actually interested in it because I feel like there's going to be some answers in that movie that
I hope so.
we have current questions, and I feel like that movie's going to give us the answers.
We need answers, damn it!
I would like it if it kind of segues and takes place during the events of Infinity
4
War.
hours before Infinity War.
So that by the end of Infinity War, Scott Lang is brought into the picture. Hopefully, it's probably going to be an end credits thing, but I hope that they touch on that. Otherwise, it's going to be
honestly, let's put it this
biggest
way.
blue
Have
hole.
they disappointed us to that extent as of yet? No.
No.
I feel like they know exactly what they're doing. They knew exactly what they were doing when they originally changed the title of this movie years ago.
It's true.
So, they have a plan. They're honestly they're pretty much just taunting us at this point. They're holding that treat in front of us saying, "Hey, come get it," just to have it like ripped away from us. But then at the end they're going to be like, "All right, okay, you can have it." And we're currently at the rip away
Watch
stage.
2 hours for a 15-second little bone.
Yeah, exactly.
Predictions. Do we want to cover predictions some other time? For Avengers
yes,
4?
actually, yeah, we'll do predictions and like theories for another one there. But thank you guys so much for coming in and doing this review and talking about in depth of so many characters and so many just the universe of MCU and where it stands right now. But thanks, guys. You can
Johnny, before we end,
Yo.
I mean, do we give the movie a score?
Of Apex. I'm very glad you stopped me, but I think we should. Ladies and gentlemen, we the Foundry score Avengers Infinity War 8.5.
8.5.
8.5. Solid 8.5.
Yeah,
solid 8.5.
Not liquid,
Yep.
not
flaccid.
gas.
Nope. We're going
exactly.
stiff 8.5.
Solid.
All right. Yep. It's hard and ready to go. But thank you guys so much for watching the review. We'll be back with another one shortly. Maybe doing some more Infinity War content for you guys. But you can check out all of our channels down below in the description. We all do a bunch of content on there. And you guys can also follow us all on Twitter. Sly's Twitter handle is
SlyKiko3. Check it out.
Apex has got a Twitter as well, which is
Dragon Apex.
And I also have a Twitter at 97JohnnyBoy. Any final words for the viewers, you guys?
Watch the movie.
All right, if there's one thing that you want the viewers to take away from this review, what is it going to be?
That's a tough one.
If there's one thing that I would say that should be taken away from this movie, it should be that the Infinity Stones were used in a specific way on purpose, rather than what they could have been used. That's the biggest thing. It was all done a specific way on purpose. And that's one of the things that I thought a lot about, like, why wasn't this done instead? Or why wasn't this stone used more? It's because it was all done on purpose. That's what should be taken away with that.
The possibilities from after Infinity War are endless. There are so many open doors thanks to the ending, as well as the remaining Avengers having the knowledge of the stones now in a better depth, that Avengers 4 is not going to disappoint.
True.
Right.
I agree.
I definitely like your point, Apex, about the stones on them, that they're very complex and we don't even know the half of it. But thanks, guys, for joining us for this review, and we'll hope to see you on the next Foundry video. Bye-bye.
Later, guys.
Later.